Uh, I think this is going to be very good, and especially one in terms of like what it is that we've just been talking about. The rap is sort of it's the little opening speech that you give people. Although it's not really a speech. But it's the this is what I'm about, this is what we're doing, sort of thing. Um, but it's actually in almost every way one of the most crucial pieces of the sort of organizing arsenal that any one particular person can have, right? I mean, we hear all the time that first impressions are the most important, that they're the most crucial. And I think in every way, shape, and form, the rap is really, it's the first impression, right? It's the thing that people hear from us first. Um, and I think in a lot of ways, it's the thing that they remember the most, right? Like we all have that moment. I remember I was a undergraduate at Michigan State University back in the 90s, and there was this guy named Jerry Goldberg who was a member of the Workers' World Party, and he had come up from Detroit to one of our protests, and he got on the mic and he started like talking, and he was saying a whole bunch of stuff about capitalism and everything. And then he just busted out and said, and I had never heard anybody say anything like this before. He said, I am against capitalism. I am against exploitation, right? I am against the things that capitalism brings. And I got to tell you, man, I mean, that shook me to my core when I heard that guy say that. I had never heard anybody in my life talk like that. And just fearless, right? And he still is fearless. Um, but so I think that it's these moments, right? So how do we build the organizing rap? Let me share my screen with you guys. Here we go. Share the screen. I think this is how I want to do this. All right. Can you guys see the slide that says organ?
No,
You don't see the slide that
I
says
don't.
organizing rap? Does anybody else?
No, I don't see it either.
Okay, let me try this again. I was trying to be I was trying to be slick. Oh, I see what I did wrong. I didn't share it. Okay, now let's give it a try.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. Now do you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Affirmative.
All right. Awesome. So this is just a short presentation. Then we have a worksheet that we can go through together. Um, that I think the worksheet is really pretty helpful. And it was sent out in the email that went out this morning. So this organizing wrap, it's like it's the key to building community power, like we were just talking about a second ago. Um, in my opinion, I think that your rap is pretty basic, in the sense that it changes slightly from situation to situation, but for the most part, what you're really doing is introducing yourself as the organizer, right? So, what are the things that you believe in? Who are you? Um, who are you, right? That's a big part of it. So, I think in order to really think about how to make a good rap, one of the things that we need to keep in mind is this idea of heightening contradictions, right? Um, we're not going out and talking to people because we're all in agreement with each other, right? We're not going out and talking to people because everything's okay. That's not why we're there. I mean, there are times when we go out and talk to people and we're there to have a good time and it's a party and all that, but that's not what this is, right? So, what we have to do is we have to think about what the contradictions are between where we're at and at least in our own minds and where we see the situation uh in reality or the way it's manifesting itself, right? There's a contradiction. For Chicanos, for Latinos, I think really just kind of for poor people in the United States in general, there are real contradictions that are set up in terms of what it is that we're promised as citizens of the United States and what is delivered to us or what we have available to us or what it is that we can actually benefit from as citizens of the United States or just people who live here in the United States in general. So, heightening contradictions is a strategy, right, to prepare people for confrontational tactics. And when I say confrontational, I don't necessarily mean that we're going to be out fighting or, throwing rocks or Molotov cocktails or anything like that. Because actually, I think that that's one form of confrontation. There are many forms of confrontation. Telling somebody you don't agree with them is confrontational. Saying no to somebody is confrontational, right? Explaining why you believe they're wrong is confrontational. Um, so, and I mean, people got to be prepared for that, right? Like we have to work with people to help them understand that it's okay to tell somebody no, that it's okay to tell them that you don't agree with them, right? So it's a strategy. But we heighten contradictions. We don't try to flatten them, right? We don't try to bring them together. What we try to do is we try to separate these contradictions even more so that it's easy for people to see the differences. That's really what we want to do in all of our organizing for the party is we want people to be able to see the differences. We want them to be able to see the difference between the Partido and the Republican Party. We want them to see the difference between the Partido and the Democratic Party. We want them to see the difference between the Partido and the PSA or the PSL or the DSA, any or the Greens, any of these other parties. Because if there isn't any difference, right, then what is the necessity of our existence? So what we're doing is we're educating them with the aim of involving them in confrontations to win demands. We need them to be able to do these things, right, to win. As a community, we have a long history of not winning. So we're not used to winning. Actually, I would argue that we don't really know how to win. So what we have to do is we have to teach ourselves how to win. And part of that is understanding that these contradictions need to be exacerbated, right? People need to understand the contradiction of settler colonialism. They need to understand the contradictions of racism that are inherent within our society. They need to understand why Jerry Goldberg was against capitalism, right? That's heightening contradictions. Actually, let's go back. So we just read through these real quick. It says the greater the amount of pressure, the more incentive there is to resolve it. I think all of us know that's true, even if it's just from our personal lives. How do we as organizers do this? What role does education play in this process? Organizationally, we can bring pressure, right? Running a campaign to elect somebody to school board or to city council, that is bringing pressure, right? The campaign itself is the pressure. So the greater amount of pressure, the better the campaign or the more strategic or strong the campaign is, the more incentive there is to resolve it. And it's resolved through the voting. So how do we do this as organizers? What role does education play in this process? Heightened levels of tension could equal faster resolution to the matter. I think that we all know that that's true too, right? People do not know how to sit in uncomfortability. It is very difficult for them. Some people will do anything to end that sensation of being uncomfortable, right? What we have to do is we have to practice being okay with it because we want to heighten levels of tension. Is it important or even good to always resolve a conflict quickly? And I mean, of course, I think this is a question that we need to ask too. I mean, some people are like, well, let's just get it over with. Okay. I mean, we can do that. We can just get it over with. But I mean, the reality is that the people with the least amount of power in the equation are usually the ones who get burned in the let's just get it over with quickly, right? And so why would we not resolve conflicts? Uh, why would we not want to resolve conflicts in some struggles? I mean, there are some things that need to be fought out. So, heightening contradictions, this idea of exposing contradictions between opposing groups is based in the fundamental belief in the irreconcilable differences in values, beliefs, and most of all, interests. There is irreconcilable differences in or between the colonizer and the colonized. That does not mean that the colonizer and colonized can't work together, can't do certain things together, all of that. But there are irreconcilable differences between colonialism and the people that are being colonized. Colonialism works and is founded upon, in every way, the subjugation of the colonized in the way that they have been removed from resources, in the way that they have been mentally and psychologically scarred, in the way that their political structures have been decimated and are really not allowed, in any sort of meaningful way to be rebuilt, right? At least not by the colonial structure. That's something that the colonized themselves have to do. So, in view of race, class, political, and economic interests, what we have to ask ourselves is, can any institution be viewed as neutral? And, when we talk about institutions, I think it's also important that we understand and acknowledge that what we're talking about are institutions that are created by the settler colonial system, right?
So
Go
I
ahead.
have a question, Ernesto. Sorry.
No, no, jump in anytime, you guys.
So I apologize. This because this is exact what you're talking about, the colonizer versus the colonized. Okay, in talking about heightening contradictions,
Hmm.
one of the things that I've kind of struggled with, and I got into a giant argument with our mayor about it about a year ago. I mean, it was like a 4 or 5 hour argument, um, because here in Santa Fe, for example, and I hate to sound like one of those people that say this, but I do know for a fact that my family on the Roybal side, they came with Don Diego as the conquistadores. And the conquistadores and the Roybals, generally in San Ildefonso Pueblo, where my mom's family's from, were not nice people. And so I have to struggle with the internal contradiction of being both oppressed and oppressor, because not only did we take land, but we also had land taken.
Right.
And so that's a contradiction that for years, and that's kind of one of the scariest things about going off and entering a race is having that kind of unresolved kind of conflict about when you have settler and settle, you know, how do we reconcile that? Because how do we take the idea forward that we're oppressed and colonized when our ancestors oppressed and colonized? And I know that the Spanish form of government was much different than the American form of government. So, it's a very nuanced kind of argument. But the mayor really had me kind of dead to rights on that argument. What happened was is we had an obelisk in our Santa Fe Plaza that some outsiders tore down. And it's been a source of contention. My position is we should have left it there because it was a symbol of colonization of the United States government. And we should have left it there so that we could confront that past. But his idea was, no, we have to get rid of that. We have to whitewash it. We cannot have these kind of things. And so that's my question to you is how do we resolve that contradiction?
Well, I think that Andrea and Scott both have some things that they might want to weigh in on that. I know Andrea raised her hand. Go ahead, Andrea.
So for me, that was a spiritual thing. And because I did my genealogy and, I learned who my Spanish ancestors were too. And so in coming to learn that, I literally, I had a spiritual uh, ritual kind of thing that I did to heal myself. And in my own way, I apologized on the behalf of my ancestors. I know that sounds weird, but it was something for my spirit. And when I did it, I felt cleansed of it. And I know in my spirit, I I I have the spirit of more indigenous, that's where I connect to. And so I can let I can heal that part of the Spanish in me, and I can let it go because I know I'm not like them. And that's how it was for me. It was a spiritual thing. And I think this earth, even though we think that there's not trauma on there, especially New Mexico has a lot of trauma when it comes to the Native Americans and our Spanish ancestors, because we are both. And so we just need to heal that side of ourselves. Whether you do it, personally, if you want to do it, like I did not do it personally. I went to the Gathering of the Nations, and I went out there, and I wanted to speak, but instead I just offered a paper to a young man that had an apology. Like, I don't know, it was a spiritual thing for me. But once I did that, I have no kind of, I don't have that in me no more. What you're facing is defeated. And once I joined this, it like completed it, because now I know I'm indigenous, and I'm proud to be indigenous, and I can let that Spanish side of me go. And and I see their struggles too. I also saw, that they went through some struggles themselves, the Spanish. So I also was able to um come to terms that, they were human. And I know they did wrong, but I have to just, forgive them for what the hell they did too. So that's me. That's what I did.
There's a we're gonna have Scott and he put his hand up too. I just want to say real quick that this thing that she's to put in here is something that I agree with in terms of how I would answer this question. For me, and this is what she's just writing, but also for me, you just have to pick a side and stand with it. And I think that that's true. I mean, I have a white mom, a Mexican dad. I mean, it could have been very easy for me to be a lot of different things. But I think that it's also what it does is it tells us that who we are is a choice. And Vanessa talks about that too. There's a lot of good stuff in the chat, Juan. I don't know if you see it or not. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could talk all day about this, but honestly, like this is a very common New Mexican thing, and for all old, quote unquote, old families from New Mexico, Tejas, and California, being, I mean, this is you're jumping in, joining like I mean, I call it waiting for your conquistador daddy come home from getting cigarettes, right? I don't really get it. But you're identifying with the colonizer and get joining in on your own detribalization, going in on your own, and it's like you're valuing the Spaniard whether you think so or not, right? You're not really this crossroads identity is all nonsense. It's not you're really going in on your European ancestors and valuing them and not choosing the other side or valuing the other side at all. Um, I don't get it. I mean, do I seem like a white Texas redneck to anybody here? Like anybody who knows me, have you ever considered like Scott's a white Texas redneck? My father's a white Texas redneck. Am I a white Texas redneck? Not one motherfucking bit, you know. Um, and it's I've been to Spain and I've been to Scotland. These supposedly my European ancestors there. Where I didn't see anyone Spanish who looked remotely like me. I didn't see anyone Scottish who looked remotely like me. The only places I've ever been in the world has been New Mexico and California, and for good reason. And I think, like it, there's also a deeper history of why our people in New Mexico and California and Texas started really doubling down on the Spanish identities because native people getting hunted, I should say tribally affiliated people. First off, there's like a long history of like who you're rolling with, right? Are you like, are you with this are you doing stuff with this colonizer, or are you outside that system? And when the U.S. showed up, they're hunting. You can't own land if you're native or black, which a lot of us were mixed, and you can't, it goes down from there, like, and so there's no magic rocket ship from Spain. And Spain itself, often you're Arab and African and Jewish as it is. So, I mean, there's no pure anybody. And many native people are also, we're interrelated there for like centuries. Like you go, I mean, I don't know if you guys ever go to a lot of like reservations in New Mexico and they say the same last names, the same look, and it doesn't all just come from, the three Spaniards that were there, whatever, Um, but even our native people have been compromised in doing in what do you call it in oppressing ourselves, and we right now are compromised. Even us in this phone call are compromised in oppressing ourselves and our own people. The thing is about decolonizing, you got to look and see, you got to put an end to it. And um, it's like, what are you going to look at everybody as a human? And most often that means if you're like, oh, my Spanish ancestors, this or that, you're lionizing them and you're denying their acts and whatever. Um, as far as like leaving, like New Mexico's got a lot of that, like minefields everywhere. They have the, what do you call it? Even the La Conquistador, that doll that comes out every year. Um, uh, we need to have a conversation with tribally affiliated people because there are literal cousins or ourselves, and like like too often we choose to try to side with the oppressors. To me, it's about siding with oppressors and not dehumanizing any magic Spaniard that we think we belong to, or like any kind of European, because they had their own issues. But it's also realizing what they committed upon this continent, and if we're going to be down with that or not. And it's definitely part of the conversation, but it's just like I've seen people, like, I get a little frustrated because it's strange to me because I've seen people who look far browner than me always go off and say how they come from like this magical place in Spain, in New Mexico or Texas or California, where untouched by native blood, and this rocket ship that their ancestors got on from the highest, widest peak in Spain, and they launched over here, right? So, but there's reasons behind that. There's reasons why people don't want to, my grandmother was mostly native. She a Mission Indian, and she would never talk about it because that's, old school. Like, people were deeply ashamed of it. And similarly, like my grandfather from New Mexico, it's like he was making Indian jokes. It was people still threw things at us and called us beaners and told us to back to Mexico. So I think it's I'm not trying to downplay it, but it's just like like what she's just saying, basically all I'm going to say, pick a side, pick a side, and it not denying. I don't deny I'm half gringo either, but it's like, can I see what the gringos are up to? Can I see how they all, I don't need to iterate all the things, but like I can see that uh for us to really be human and honor all our ancestors, not in this mestizo weird mestizaje way. You have to see yourself, see the ones that are normally on the bad end of the stick as human too, and that changes the story.
Yeah.
That's all I know. I was pontificating. I'm sorry. I didn't mean
No,
to go off on
it's okay, Scott. Because actually I think this is a very good discussion that demonstrates this whole idea of heightening contradictions, right? Like, it isn't something that you just do. I mean, you have to think this through, right? Like, you've got to talk to people about it. And a big part of being able to heighten the contradictions is coming to some conclusions, for yourself or even organizationally about, what the contradiction is, right? And where it lies. So no, I think it was good. Juan, did you want to have the last word on this?
No, I mean, I like what everybody's saying in the chat, and I do appreciate I appreciate the feedback. It is something that, like what Vanessa's saying about creating a new identity and a new consciousness. That's the thing I've always kind of, you know, and I don't mean to downplay. I meant Dr. Bustamante. What she said in the chat. I think that we are all here from a certain perspective, and I don't think it's I don't think it's a either or kind of simple situation. And I think that's why heightening contradiction. And I think that's why I've always kind of been drawn to the, Partido Raza Unida, because, it's always been it's been a home for me. And like having this discussion feels like home for me, even though it's, you may not agree with me. I may not agree with you. That's okay for me, because having these discussions, is important, because I don't get to have them very often anymore. It's gone too
Yeah.
black and white. You're either red or blue. And,
Yeah.
it's not that simple anymore. And I think, I do think that at some point, we do have to create a new consciousness, and we do have to kind of share that message. And I appreciate everybody. So thank you very much. I'll say.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. So let's jump into the part about the wrap. Okay. So now we understand the framework of how it is that we are thinking about this, how it is that we want to put the or how it is that we want to think about a wrap through this lens of heightening contradictions. And so we're just going to kind of read through these slides, and then we're going to go to the worksheet. And I think there's enough of us here that we should be able to just kind of do the worksheets together. But so when we talk about the wrap, the question is, can you break your issue down in 2 minutes or less? Can you make someone feel it, understand it, and want to do something about it? That is what we call the organizing wrap. It's one of the most important and essential tools in your activist toolkit. The wrap is your elevator pitch for change, your chance to communicate why this fight matters and how people can join you. I put elevator pitch in here. It's not exactly the term necessarily that I like the most, but it's one I think that people understand. So but to be clear, the rap isn't just a speech, it's the heart of your organizing strategy. It's what you say to connect, inspire, and mobilize. But it doesn't happen by accident. Even seasoned organizers can lose focus without preparing. If you can't clearly explain what you're working toward, how can you expect others to join in? And so this is really the big question, right, that we have as we continue to organize the party in different places. What is it that we're working for? Why are we doing this? I think that we all have different ideas, and we may even have different ideas on different days. But a big part of feeling prepared to talk to people is having this wrap down, right? You want to run for school board. Why do you want to run for school board? That is a question that somebody is going to ask you over and over and over again. I think you should join the Partido Nacional de la Raza Unida. Why? Why should I join that? Why should I do that? What is your answer to that? So, clarity, right, is key. People need to know what you're about in the first 30 seconds. Don't make them guess. Write it down, your main points, the must-know facts, and why it matters. Keep it simple, direct, and human. My name is Ernesto Mireles. I am an organizer for the Raza Unida Party, and I am here today to sign you up. These are the reasons why. Maybe not the smoothest way of doing it, right? But they need to know what you're about. They need to know why you're there. Know your audience. What do they care about? What's keeping them up at night? Connect their struggles to your campaign. This isn't about you. It's about building a shared vision for change. This part is very important, right? Everybody on this call is from a different city in this country. Pretty interesting, actually. And in every one of those cities, there are similar issues and there are different issues, right? What is the issue in your city that people care about? What's keeping them up at night? How do we use that to build a shared vision for change? So when we think about the way that the party operates, right? I mean, the party operates on a national, on a state, and on a local level, on the macro, the meso, and the micro level. And sure, there are commonalities across that. But on the national level, what we're doing is building a shared vision for change. On the state level, you're building a shared vision for change. And on the local level, you're building a shared vision for change. So all of these different ways of building this vision then become important. but the most important piece of it is what you know on the local level. That's what's the most important part because, I mean, you really do know where you live, right? I mean, you live there. So you have a long and a short version. And it says you want to think of it as a playlist, right? You need a hit single and you need an album cut. One grabs the attention, the other builds commitment. Once you have them with the short rap, it has a hook in it. What do you think about that? Do you have any ideas? Do you agree? Right? All raps have to have an engaging statement, right? So that when you are talking to people, you get them to talk back to you because on no level or at any time is this about us telling people what is going on. This is about us creating a dialogue between the party and the Partido organizers and people who haven't signed up for the party yet. Because there are two kinds of people really that we're looking for, right? We know that there are people who belong to the party and people who haven't signed up yet. Our goal is to get the people who haven't signed up yet to sign up. And that really is our goal, you guys. I think that we should be clear about that, right? I mean, there are a lot of other things that we want to do, like we want to have help people have better lives. And I believe by building the party that we're helping the community at large to be more politically successful, to have better lives, to be able to interact with the system on a more intimate level or but we need people to join the party. That is what we're working on, right? So clarity, use real language, speak like a human as opposed to a non-human. Um, speak like a person, right? Like the kind of person that is there in the park with the other people that are there, right? This goes back to knowing your audience. Talk at a level that respects people's intelligence without being condescending. Organizing is about connection, not showing off. Um, I mean, a lot of you know that, I work as a college professor, and I've had people tell me that I shouldn't talk the way that I talk or that I use words that are too big or whatever. And they said that it comes off condescending to other people. And I heard what they were saying, but I got to be real honest with you. I mean, I think that if people know these things about me, and then I try to talk a different way than the way that I normally talk, that comes off as condescending. And I think that it's important for us in terms of knowing our audience. I think it's also important to know who we are. Um, and I don't think condescending has anything to do with vocabulary, to be real honest with you. I think it has to do with tone. I think it has to do with the way that we assume people know or do not know certain things. And, again, when it goes back, that doesn't have anything to do with vocabulary. Um, but we do know what it sounds like when somebody's talking down to us. I don't think that that's something that needs to be explained. And so, thinking about listening, right? We also want to listen deeply because listening isn't passive. It is an act of respect. When people feel heard, they feel valued. And when they feel valued, they'll show up. Listening is important. It is the most important thing that you can do after you introduce yourself is to listen to what people have to say, to repeat back to them what they said, right? This is what I hear. This is what I understand you saying. Um, can you tell me more about this thing that you said, right? There are lots of ways that we can have conversations, organizing conversations with people, because an organizing conversation isn't just a regular conversation. An organizing conversation is a conversation, it's an intentional conversation with a specific goal. And in this case, our specific goal is to get people to become members of the Raza Unida party, right? So we want to listen to them deeply, and we want to listen to them with respect, because what they're saying is important. And it's not just important to them, it has to be important to us too, in terms of thinking about how it is that we make change in our communities. So the rap isn't something you perfect once, it's something you refine every day. The more you talk to people, the sharper and the more powerful your message will become. Each conversation is a chance to build trust, grow your base, and clarify your vision. Practice makes power. They say practice makes perfect, but my wrestling coach used to tell us that only perfect practice makes perfect. So if you practice something wrong every day, then you're going to do it wrong when the moment comes. So this is this idea of this rap, right, is something that we have to get into our head. I mean, my wife makes fun of me because she says that I'm constantly talking to myself. But she's right. I am constantly talking to myself. And there are times she'll say, "Hey, who won that argument?" Which I think is pretty funny. But I'll be honest, and it's mostly me. I mostly win the arguments inside of my head, but not always. But what I do lots of times really is I practice, right? What I'm going to say to people and how I'm going to say it and what makes sense. Like if this person comes and they say this, how would I convince them to become a member of the Partido, right? How would I convince them that we need to go to Santa Fe to work on Juan Blaya's campaign, or that we need to, raise money for a city council run in Los Angeles? We have to practice those things. They have to become a part of the way that we think. They have to become a part of the way that we interact with people, right? Um, when we read a book, we need to practice thinking about that book through the lens of the rap that we're creating. Uh, the more that we do it, the more times that we say it to people, the easier it will become. I mean, if it feels hard to do, um, I mean, I hate to say this, but you probably need to just do it more, you know. And with time, it will get easier. And I know it's difficult. I know it is. And uh, but yeah, it's important. So the more you talk to people, the sharper and more powerful your message will become. That is true. Oops, I went too far. And so then these are two examples of an organizing rap, right? So the first one here is so if you were like a student and you were doing something with Mecha, like um like we table on campus, right? And so as the students are passing out flyers, they hand somebody a flyer and they say, "Hey, can I talk to you about something real quick? I'm part of Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano de Aslan, or Mecha, and we're working to make sure our school truly reflects our culture and history. Do you know our campus doesn't even have a Chicano studies major? We think that's a problem, but we're organizing to change that, and we need voices like yours. Will you come to our next meeting and help us build something powerful?" You see what this rap does, right? It tells them what the problem is, or what we perceive the problem to be. It tells them that we're trying to change that, and then it asks them to get involved in that, right? Um, Anytime that we have an organizing conversation with people, we want to ask them to do something, right? We never want to leave people with the idea that the party is doing the work. We want to leave them with the idea that they, as a member of the party, are helping to build change and to make intentional change in the area that we live in. So the second one is for the party. Oh, have you ever felt like the two-party system doesn't speak for us? I know that there are many of us who have started off a conversation like this, right? Oh, you're not alone. That's why I'm with the Partido Nacional de la Raza Unida. We're building a movement for Chicanos who are tired of being ignored. We fight for our communities, our schools, and our future, and we're doing it together. I'd love for you to join us. Can I count on you to come to our event this Saturday? right? So this is, much more of a straightforward kind of thing. Maybe this would be something that you might ask somebody over the phone or something. Possibly could do that in person. With a clipboard, you sign them up, you get their phone number, you get their email. Uh, both of these are very simple. Um, yeah, they're very simple examples of an organizing wrap, and they both do the same thing, right? They say who we are, they say what it is that we're working towards, and then they ask that person to join. This is this is sort of the essence of how that works. Okay, so that's the end of the slideshow. Let me come back here real quick. I'm going to stop the share. Does anybody have any questions about this in particular? Hey, James, what's up? How you doing, brother? Good. Any thoughts? Rachel, do you have anything that you want to add? I know that this is something that this is a thing that you work with all the time.
Sorry, I had a hard time unmuting. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Um, I think not quite right now. I think I'm just kind of processing a bit, but yeah, I think what you said about listening to people and really trying to, make them feel like you aren't trying to just like get something from them, but really you're just trying to help them harness their own power, you know? I think I really appreciated what you said about that. Um, I think, making sure you're showing up for people and showing up in the same spaces and, kind of frequenting the same areas, to kind of build that rapport is important too.
Yeah.
Um, but also, with the understanding that eventually, expanding out is good, but I don't know, just FaceTime, I think is really important as well. Um, I, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to kind of comment on. But yeah, I really appreciate that whole presentation. Thanks, Ernesto.
Yeah, no, I think that your comments are very good. Yeah, go ahead, Juan.
No, just real quick. Do you do you feel like, and I mean, it's kind of like a no-brainer of an answer, but I kind of want to hear from you and from La Doctora and everybody else on the Zoom. But can La Raza Unida become a path to participation for those who don't think they can participate?
I mean, I think that's the whole point of Raza Unida from the very beginning, right? Is that there is a disenfranchisement that occurs within a settler colonial system. And I think that the part of the reason that a settler colonial system even can work is because the colonized have been convinced that they cannot participate, that they are not that, and it's I would say participation is kind of a funny word, because actually what I would say is that they've been convinced that it's not that they can't participate, but that they don't have the ability to participate. That they've been removed from the process in every way, shape, or form, right? And so I think that part of the challenge that the party has is thinking about how it is that we um, reintegrate people into uh, the idea of building political power, right? I mean, when you think about political power in the Chicano community, nobody talks about how to build political power in the Chicano community. They talk about how to stop ICE raids by handing out know your rights, right? Flyers, and they talk about, having protests in front of the police station and all these other things. And I think all those things are, good things for people to do. But by themselves, they do not build political power. And how do I know that that's true? I mean, I know it's true because people have been doing it for, you know, over a century now, and it has not built any sort of real political power for Chicanos, for indigenous people here in the United States, whatsoever. I mean, so the question is, you know, what do we do, you know, in order to build that? I see there's a whole bunch of people saying things.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that too. I think we are creating that participation and we're doing it different because I think one thing we've realized is that the way the system is set up, if you don't have a formal education or you don't understand the way politics work or the government works, then you just kind of like, well, I'm not going to get involved, or it's just this way and I have to choose one of these. And I think what we're doing, what we have created in La Raza Unida is different avenues of creation to bring people in to start involving themselves in the community, whether it's to create, you know, a Chicano studies online course and offer it across the nation, you know, virtually, or have a new creator out there create a new brand of chips for the Chicano community that is healthier than what we've seen, right? And creating this communal culture where then it becomes, oh, did you know so and so from La Raza Unida is running for X, Y, and Z in this state?
Yeah.
Oh, did you know the friend, you know, that we've had all along is trying to make waves in this? And so it becomes different the way that we get informed, the way that we back those people because we've seen what they've done. We've seen that they want to create positive change in our communities. And so it changes the whole structure of getting behind a candidate or getting behind a person, right? And so it's really cultivating, I think, a new way of moving the needle away from this kind of like elitist, convoluted structure that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would like to do is I would like to invite you guys to open up your worksheets that you have that got sent out this morning. And I just kind of want to work through these with you guys, and just kind of go step by step. I think it's these types of worksheets I think are very helpful. I know that when I was a student and I used to hate doing things like this, but I also realized too just how important it is to be able to sit down and really think about these issues, right? So as we begin to build a rap, or it says identify the problem. So think about issues in your community that concern you. Write down your answers below. You know, what's a problem that your community faces? So like, I'm gonna call on some people. And so like Shista, if you were gonna answer this, what would you say are three problems your community where you live faces?
Well, we have the worst education in the country. We have poverty, and we have. So my dog. I'm trying to think. What else? I'm sorry, I'm zoning out. I don't know what else. There's lots of things. Obviously, like that little girl who just got found her body, the indigenous girl. She's like 2 miles away from my house. You know, safety issues. We have
Hey,
predators
yeah.
here.
All right. Scott, what's two issues that you guys face up in the Bay Area? Or three
Um,
issues?
well, mine it's kind of general. I mean, cost of living and housing. It's
Oh,
just because I was in Texas in a bougie area, and I'm like, wow, everything's so cheap.
what are two others?
Uh, I mean, crime is up, but it's also because of the lack of opportunity and jobs and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's also like what do you call it when everyone's got to come in from so far to work? That's the housing too. Like like you had that never left the Bay Area when when all the well-off people, like everyone's coming, like traveling so far to go to work, minimum wage jobs.
Okay. All right. James, what are three problems that face the community in Tennessee?
Well, it's just going to sound like I'm repeating, but cost of living is a huge deal here. To give you an example, to rent a home, a 3-bedroom home, uh, in a decent area and a decent educational system, it's going to cost you between $2,500 and $3,500 a month
God
before
damn.
utilities or anything.
For a 3 bedroom?
Yeah, well, we sold our house and it sold kind of quickly. So I'm in a rental right now. It's a home, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage,
Wow.
1450 square feet. And it's about, if I stay here, I'll be close to 2,500, if not over a month before utilities or anything else.
That's a dream in the Bay Area, man.
Yeah,
Well,
but
For
yeah,
that's
say
real.
in
LA?
Michigan, I'm living well. I'm on living high in the hog, but in Tennessee, not so much.
yeah, that's
So
crazy.
there's that. Within what I've seen, people having, and I don't know a better way to say this, self-worth or value. They've been told for so long they're only worth this. And I hate this statement. It always could be worse. Well, if we live in the friggin' United States and it's supposed to be one of the best countries in the world, we should be saying, why isn't it better? Settling on it could be worse mindset is rampant here. And then safety, feeling safe to come out and voice your opinions. It's like I sent you something from last month where they were actually having a rally at a county area, well, not a county, but a large area where the Klan was giving away free food
Yep.
and they had, games for the kids and just telling them on how they're being kept down by us. So safety is a big deal here.
Okay. So let's go with safety, you guys. So and and I think that, like if somebody had said to me, asked me this question, I mean, I would have said cost of living and housing also too, right? And I think that if we went right down the list and we asked everybody that was here, cost of living and housing is a big issue, right? Okay. So if we know that that's true, right? What does that have to do with the Raza Unida Party? How can the Raza Unida Party impact the cost of living and housing in the communities that it's in, right? I mean, this is part of our challenge as thinking about organizing a political party, right? Because I mean, really, what we're saying when we organize a political party is that we want to govern, right? We want to be in charge. We want to set policies and to create economic opportunities and all of these other things. And we know that our community is impacted, regardless of where they live, right? Across the board, uh, by the cost of living and housing. So I wrote safety, but that's not what I meant to write. Um, so one of the things then that we need to ask ourselves is who's impacted by this? Who's impacted by the cost of living and housing?
Is that rhetorical?
Nope.
Brown
Nope.
people, marginalized people of all types, particularly queer, trans, the poor, the working class in particular.
I, I would say anybody who has a middle class income and below, because obviously the rich can afford wherever they live or however they're going to eat, whatever they're going to eat.
Yes.
Sometimes poor people have to decide whether to buy the medicine or buy the food.
Go ahead, Juan.
Yeah, I was going to say everyone, and we can't, when we start talking about housing, it impacts all spectrums of a society or a community, because even the wealthy are just as much impacted, because in a lot of ways it's their wealth that kind of creates the unequal distribution. And so everybody's impacted by the cost of living. And when the cost of living, cost of housing are too high for a community, there has to be a balance to offset that. And so, to answer your question, I would say every person in a community is impacted by high cost of housing.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think that in terms of who it is that we're going to be talking to, I'm not so sure how that works. But James, go ahead. Family, single parents. That's a good one.
Yeah, one of the things that I know when I'm talking to anyone about housing, especially younger people, or we'll call them late bloomers, in the sense that it took them a little longer to get on a regular path as far as income and education goes. Uh, there's a lot of misunderstanding on what's needed, what's required. If you go on a mortgage calculator, it shows you 20%. You have to be above middle class to be able to afford that and everything else. Um, addressing the developer side of it, we need a group of people to come in that are more ethically and morally sound, and people need to understand you can't run a business if you don't make money. But putting the priority of people above profits. Now I get in these conversations, well, you got to make money. Well, I didn't say to be broke.
Right.
You know, if you can't pay your employees, you can't build anything. But it's finding that perfect model where you can take somebody who is middle class or below, help them achieve a certain goal so they can become those. So you got to build a pathway. You can't just tell people to do it. People get discouraged.
Right. Okay. That's very good. So what contradictions then exist in this situation, this cost of living and housing? What are the contradictions that exist here?
I mean, in the Bay Area, there's a lot of empty housing. There still is. They built like before what they call the little circle of hell that's happening, whatever the hell they call it. There was a big boom of building houses, so there's a bunch of empty houses, like empty
Okay.
apartments that no one could, that people can't afford, because most
Right.
people with
But they'd
anything less,
rather let them just sit empty.
yeah, they rather let
Yeah.
them sit empty. Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing when they do, they build a lot of these little, they call them hobbit homes, these tiny things. They don't really do anything. All the city does is try, like, despite the, quote unquote liberal whatever, they remove homeless people from the site of people that have houses, and it's a dance. They move here, build a shanty town in the middle, like, a warehouse district gets leveled. And then they move someplace else because they're not giving a solution to anybody. They don't give them housing.
What are some other contradictions that exist in this situation? The cost of living and housing.
Well, in order to afford a house, you have to have a livable wage.
Yeah.
And we both know that's issues.
Yeah. What else?
For my community, I'm gonna say they could be spending money on things that we need, but they're spending things on bullshit like lights and aliens and now a freaking air show. When people, I mean, literally, we just had a flood, so a lot of the houses are probably going to be condemned, and the houses that are empty are not livable. So, I mean, I think wasteful spending, I guess. I think our money could be spent. I think we have the money, we just don't have the, I don't know. How do you word it?
I mean, it's that we're spending money on things that do not help people, and that there's a
Yeah.
failing infrastructure. What else? What are the other contradictions? These are good, but we can come up with one more.
As far as the cost, what's the contradiction when the cost of living? Because there's just like no escape for a lot of folks because food is like unbelievable. On like so I'm supposing most people live like hand to mouth these days. I don't know, but there has to be. I don't know what the contradiction is, but it's just like the food prices skyrocket.
Well,
Everyone's at the bargain market.
how do we want to I mean, I think one of the things that we could talk about, well, actually no, we'll save that for a second. I'm trying to keep up on the yeah, they do. Um, and the majority of poor in this country are white. It's also because they still make up the majority of the population. Um, and I think that's an important thing to it's an important thing to keep in mind. I think that's another organizing discussion. Um, so how do we okay, so we've gone through this, right? So we're identifying the problem. What is the problem that your community faces? We see that there's a number of problems here. So we've settled on this idea of the cost of living and housing. And it affects brown people, working class people, middle class income and below, trans people, families, and single parents. Okay. These are all groups of people that this can affect. These are all also people who make up our community. The Chicano, Latino, Indigenous community is made up it has all of those people in it, right? Okay. And it even has rich people in it. Quite a few who probably make a very good wage. So we think about what is the contradiction that exists in this situation. Because remember, what we have to do is we got to go out and talk to people about why they should join the party, right? That's really the main focus that we have around this particular conversation. So if we're going to go out and talk to people about the cost of living and housing and how it affects our community, right? Then what we need to be prepared is to explain to them where the contradictions in this lie. Well, one of them is that there's a lot of housing and that there's a lot of housing that's just empty, right? That there people just can't live in it because it's it's more profitable for banks to let them stay unoccupied than it is for them to put somebody into it. A livable wage is certainly an issue, right? Spending money on things that do not help people, um, a failing infrastructure. These are all issues that we're facing across the country, and the cost of living, inflation, living hand to mouth, right? These are all the sort of basic contradictions that we see in the country that we live in right now. So what we're going to do now is we're going to explain how the PNLRU is working to address this problem. So, how are we working to address this problem? How does our mission align with this issue? How does the mission of the party align with this issue of housing, cost of housing, and of living, the cost of living and housing?
The what do you call it? The the landlords are the first to go in a revolution.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, joking.
I know, but I don't think that's gonna help us with this rap. Go ahead, Juan.
Actually, could I ask a question of Dr. Bustamante?
I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
How would you answer that question?
Mm. I think that's hard. I think our mission aligns with the issue because it addresses the things that our community needs overall, right? It's like a overarching like subject, right? Everything that the Raza needs, all our position papers, like everything is outlined to address this, right? But I think like when we talk about how our mission, right, and what we're doing, I think aligns with these things is in the building of what we're currently doing. It's in the building of the departments that we currently have, right? So it's the departments of right, you know, we just launched like national defense. It's also working with native nations and understanding the ways in which they live and drawing from different sectors of what already exists in the society to create something that isn't yet seen, right? To create something that could potentially address this issue of the cost of living and housing by creating something different that, you know, potentially, like we just talked about, we have billionaires in our communities. We just need to find them, you know, who are willing to maybe invest in something like this, right? And so it's these meetings, it's these this mission of gathering people in this type of space to discuss these things to create something different, right? And so I don't know. I don't know if that addresses your question, but I think it's quite a lot of different folds of what we do.
I think I think it's a very good answer for the next question, Vanessa.
Okay.
What actions has the PNLRU taken or could take to challenge this contradiction? Right. But all of us here, I'm looking at the list of people that are on this call, and a lot of us have been doing this for several years now. I want you guys to really, really dig down on this one, and I want you to tell me, give me the answer to this. What is first of all, what is the mission of the party? Why does the party exist?
I would say equal representation at a local level, at a state level, at a national level, but beginning at a local, of course. May I say something about the food? When I was going through Walmart yesterday, I know I had to go because my dog loves their dog food. But stop. But was I going to say that there was a lot of eggs. The whole refrigerator was full of eggs, but nobody was buying eggs because they were $9 a dozen.
Yeah.
So I would not say that we have a food shortage, or even like Scott says that we have a housing shortage. I think it's that we're not connecting. I don't know if you remember the day back in the Bay Area, because I used to live over there. We used to have cooperatives where everybody would go and we kind of like ran it ourselves. And whatever was bought, it was bought wholesale, then it was sold there. And it kept the price down of the big conglomerate stores and stuff. And it was everything. I think it was food, it was clothing, but we don't have those anymore. But anyway, I'm just saying that people are not buying, even though there's a lot, because they're waiting for somebody. They're waiting, either that or they're buying hens, which my daughter did a couple of months ago. But sometimes you can't keep hens, so that's not. Or you can plant vegetables. I do that, but I'm just saying that we got to get to the people who are controlling the prices. There's no reason, if you have all these buyers, to not lower the price. That's all.
Okay, no, I think that's a very good point. And I put it under the contradictions. I think that you're right, sister. Um, what are but let's go back
I
to
was
the
gonna say connecting with like-minded people is my answer.
what else? What is the mission of the party?
To build alternate power structure that addresses the issues of indigenous Chicano people and working people around the world.
That addresses
The issues and concerns of indigenous uh, Chicano working class people locally and globally.
We almost have to say all peoples instead of just Chicano. I know I hate the word Latin. I don't understand why people still use Latino. We are not Latino, but South Americans started that. And when I was born in Texas, I was called, I was, my birth was as a Latin American. And I didn't know that until I saw my birth, until I could read and saw my birth certificate. My parents were also Latin Americans. And I asked about that. And the reason I was told was that in Texas, they wanted to separate the Mexicans from Mexico and the ones that were born in Texas. So we had the distinction of being called Latin Americans as opposed to Mexican people. Stupid. Sorry.
no. It's okay. It's fine. The everything that we add into this conversation is really a part of the text of this conversation. It's all important. It all needs to be said. It's all going to figure out how to. It's all going to help us figure out our different pieces that we need to put together. So I mean, don't yeah.
Yeah, and our way forward, right?
And our way
I mean,
forward. That is right. Yes, absolutely. So we have a mission, right? Our mission is equal representation on the local, state, and national level. Our mission is connecting with like-minded people. Our mission is to build an alternate power structure that addresses the issues and concerns of Chicanos, all people, really. I mean, really all people. Raza Unida, right? United people.
the United
Working,
people.
that's right. Working class people locally and globally. All right. So then, what actions has PNLRU taken or could take to challenge this contradiction? I think that our chair very eloquently put out that the actions that we are taking is in building the different departments of the party, right? Because when we think about the party, I mean, what we have to do is we have to think about an organization that is working across multiple um, facets of society, right? Like we think of the party and we're like, okay, well, we're here to, uphold civil rights and, do all those other kinds of things. I mean, maybe that's what we're here to do. I'm not even so convinced of it myself anymore, to be real honest with you. I think that what we're here to do is what Vanessa said. We are here to build an organization that takes on, or at least purports to think about and to try to interact with the problems of everyday people, the cost of living and housing, right? The cost of eggs. I mean, these things are important. And I mean, in my opinion, I mean, we won't really be taken seriously as a political party until we can say to somebody, this is how I think you bring down the cost of eggs. Now, maybe one of those ways is creating a co-op, which I actually think is a really good idea, right? um, so it says, what actions has PNLRU taken or could take to challenge these contradictions? What are some other things that we could do? I think one of the things that we could do is that we could provide financial consulting services. Very important, right? We could provide some type of I don't know, insurance coverage,
Or even legal representation.
legal representation. I mean, we recently created a legal department for the party.
Oh,
I
great.
mean, yeah, how to buy a house, how to buy a house. I mean, real simple stuff that people do all the time, but we don't do in our community, right? These these are also ways of building power, as like Brother Ramos was just bringing out to me in the chat. The power comes in a lot of different ways, but one of the reasons why indigenous people are divested from resources as a part of colonization is because those resources, the ones that are originally found within the land, are the basis of all wealth, right? So as we are systematically divested from those resources, we also become systematically divested from the need to understand how resources are turned into wealth and how that wealth then serves as political power, right? I mean, I think it would be foolish. I mean, completely foolish for any of us to say that Elon Musk isn't where he's at because of how much money he has, right? Now, is that a good thing? No, but is it the reality? Yeah. Um, and so even when we think about asking people to pay dues or to become a part of the different services that are being offered, these are all ways that we can challenge this contradiction. Go ahead, Juan.
Yes, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ernesto. That's all
No,
very
no,
good points.
you
I think
go.
one of the things that I'd like to see is, the partido getting behind legislation, even at a local level, to suggest that there can be real affordable housing ordinances that can distribute the way renters and home buyers can actually access funds to be able to have a home. And I think from a legislation perspective, I think that's critical because we can't just we can't just leave it on a grassroots place. We also have to have some kind of representation. You spoke about governance, and without that kind of model at the governance level, we are going to flounder in a lot of ways. And so that's one of the things I'd like to see.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important, right? So building I would say building, and we've talked about this quite a bit, building a policy think tank. Right. And so, I mean, and what's important is that, we recognize right away that we don't think that this is the way to end settler colonialism. We think this is a way to build power within our community to be able to help people see the end of settler colonialism. I see Juan has his hand raised and it says one other person. Oh, Juan and Rachel. Rachel, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I'm gonna try to try to explain this here, but and say it effectively. But could we put something in there about like combating structures that are furthering settler colonialism in our own communities? So I'm thinking of in Denver, for example, there's a program through like it's basically to help you get for first time home buyers, and I believe it's through U.S. Bank. I might be misspeaking about that, but basically the program helps you get a house as a first time home buyer. But one of the incentives is that you buy a home in like a quote unquote up and coming area, which essentially means effectively contributing to gentrification. So a lot of these areas that are traditionally, for example, like Chicano Latino areas are being gentrified because you've got people coming in, a lot, mostly white people or wealthier people buying up these houses, like on using this program, and that it's not being that isn't being you know offered to the folks like maybe that are renting in those same neighborhoods that would like to buy a home that isn't like that's not being afforded to them or I guess like offered to them because like it's sort of like it's a who you know type of situation, right? Like the knowledge is getting out. So I figuring out a way to like combat for like and sort of uh prevent stuff like that happening. I don't know. That's something I feel like could be really powerful. I'm not sure if my question or comment came across clearly, but just wanted to throw that out there.
No, it did. Well, I mean, it did to me anyways. I get what you're saying. I think
But
that's absolutely true. Go ahead.
it's similar to redlining, what they're
Yes.
doing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that could, I don't know that much about it, but I mean, that could mean, you know, um, somebody getting a real estate license, right? And
Right.
figuring out how these things work, you know. Um, there are many ways that we can do this. I mean, that's like what I was saying here, how to buy a house, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that can be done. Uh, so, we go back, we look at what our mission is, our mission, and actually if you look at it, right, the equal representation on the local, state, and national level, connecting with like-minded people, building alternative power structures that address the issues and concerns of Chicanos, all working people or all people, working class people locally and globally. And then you look at these things that we've listed here. All of these things fall underneath that mission, right? In one way or another. They all fall under it. And so part of what we also have to do as we begin to put this together is we've got to kind of stop romanticizing what it means to be in the Chicano movement, right? And we need to build a new definition of what it means to be in the Chicano movement and what it means to be a Chicano organization. Um, and understand that these are things that have to be done on behalf. No, that I didn't mean to say it that way. These are things that need to be done. We're not doing it on behalf of the community because we're a part of the community, but they have to be done in order for us to be able to build a political power, a political presence um, within this country. Okay, so now we're going to build a rap. Okay, so opening hook, grab their attention with something relatable or urgent. Somebody, we're talking about cost of living and housing. Somebody give me an opening hook.
The displacement of the people in our communities is an increasing problem.
Okay, what are we going to say before that? It's good. It's a good start.
We need a solution to housing.
Okay.
We need to be able to live.
What are we going to say before all of that? Go ahead, Juan.
How about La Raza Unida is building pathways to make housing more accessible?
I'm going to ask a question first, like, do you see any problems in your own housing issues? Do we ask questions at the beginning or no?
Again, yeah, I think that's a good way. Um, I mean, have you guys ever had a Jehovah's Witness knock on your door?
Yeah.
Have you heard of God's kingdom?
Yeah. Exactly.
Did you know that Jehovah is going to return? Right? I mean, it's the classic, right? The hook, what's your question, Olga?
The question is, do you think we could do anything together to kind of lower the rents or lower the price of housing? I mean, is that a question? No.
That's a question.
Well, it is a question, yeah. I'd like to talk to you about it.
There you go. So you have had Jehovah's Witnesses knock on your door. All right.
And I always answer with, and I hear you only, the God, Jehovah only lets 32,000 people in heaven. So how's
Yeah.
that?
So,
Lucky
okay.
you.
So here we have it. I think these are both these are both they're good, right? Do you think, hey, my name's Ernesto Mireles, and I'm out here today just kind of talking to people about the cost of rent and the price of housing. Do you think that we could do anything in this community to lower the prices of rent? And if they say yes, say, well, I'd really like to talk to you about it. I mean, I'm with an organization called Raza Unida, and it's building, one of the main things that we're working on is building pathways to making housing more accessible, right? To stop the displacement of people in our communities. Well, here, actually, hold on a second. Let's um, let's move this down to here, right? So, to stop the displacement of people in our communities, which is an increasing problem, the way that banks and other financial institutions are targeting our neighborhoods for gentrification. I mean, we need a solution to housing. We need to be able to live in places that are nice. I'm just going to put that for right now, right? And so then what we're going to do in this is we're going to expose the contradiction. We're going to show how the system's actions don't match their words. So how do we do that?
Talk about the empty housing, the empty luxury housing.
Broken promises, they're lies.
I didn't spell that right. Luxury housing.
One thing comes to mind is our mayor in Fresno promised before he was elected that he was going to help the homeless get a little house and everybody was going to have their own little space. Well, that has not happened. I think he's been there maybe 2 or 3 years now. We go out there with signs, death by Dyer. His name is Dyer, by the way.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
So look at all this empty luxury housing, or I mean, actually, let's just say housing. All right, look at all this empty housing that's around. There's enough for everyone to have a place to live. All of these broken promises. Okay, what is one more sort of contradiction that we can put in here?
I mean, how much food there is, how much wealth there is in the nation, but how much the average person can't afford um, food or um, the cost of living.
Exactly. And the cost of medicines, by the way.
Our education should be free. We should have access in all our communities for our histories instead of getting it erased.
Okay, so we go back up here and we start, we say, hey, I would be out there, I'd hand them a flyer and I would say, hey, do you think that if my name is Ernesto Mireles and I'm out here right now with the Raza Unida party and we're talking about housing, do you think that there's anything that we could ever do to lower the price of rent and the price of housing? And, if they say yes or they say no, it doesn't really matter if they say yes or they say no, because the next thing that you say to them is, well, I'd really like to talk about why you think that, right? If they say no, or I'd really like to talk about that if they say yes. Okay. And then immediately follow up with, did you know that the Raza Unida Party is building pathways to making housing more accessible, right? And then they'll say, well, how's that? Or whatever. Maybe they won't say anything, but then you can just go on and continue saying the displacement of people in our communities is an increasing problem. We need a real solution to housing, one that will make it so that we will be able to live in places, that are nice, right? That aren't crumbling and falling down or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then to say to them, look at this empty housing. There's enough for everyone to have a place to live. All these broken promises about, a chicken in every pot and whatever, a car in every garage. And there's so much wealth in this nation, yet people are going hungry. They're sick and they're houseless, right? And then we want to offer them a solution, present PNLRU as the way forward. We should have access in all of our communities. And then how do we present the party as the way forward?
Maybe that's when you start to talk about the position papers or the the focus that La Raza Unida has.
Okay, I think that that's good. I really do. Let's go back to this. We're going to offer the party as a way forward by returning to the mission of the party, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
mission of the party is these things, right? So how are we going to put these things into how are we going to turn these three things? What is affordable rent? How do you think we can address it? That's a good one.
Yeah. What is affordable? How do they figure that out? Do they figure that out on how much money is earned by the citizens of a certain city, or how do they figure out affordable rent?
Oh no, they just jack it up and I mean affordable rent. I don't know if anybody's had a conversation about what affordable rent is in probably about 10 years. I think what they're trying to figure out now is how much can they um get people to pay uh before they start burning houses down. But if we're going to offer the party as a solution, right? How do we say that to them? So we should have access in all of our communities, right? That's what the uh, uh, Raza Unida Party is working toward. Did you know? I might throw this in depending on who I was talking to. Did you know that Raza Unida means united people, right? So we're building a party for all kinds of people on the local, state, and national level, right? Our mission today is to connect with like-minded people that want to build alternative power structures that address the issues and concerns of working people locally and globally. All right. And then the last thing is the call to action. What are we going to ask them to do?
Join the party.
That's right. That's right. We're going to ask them to join the party. Um,
Let's what was I gonna say? Let's try to work together to get to some solutions. How's that?
I like that.
Work together.
Bam. It's super easy and it takes 3 minutes. Right, Olga?
Right.
And it takes 3 minutes.
Yep.
You won't regret it. Okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take this, I'm going to drop this into the chat. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up some rooms, and then there'll be 2 people per room, and then you guys practice this with each other. All right? And then we're going to come back and do them for the whole group. Is that cool? And then wait a minute. Well, we're done in 10 minutes, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, here.
It's gonna be hard to do.
Yeah. Let's just do it. Who wants to do it for us right now? Who wants to give it a shot?
Come on, Scott. You're good with words.
Okay, Juan, we'll see you later, brother. I'm gonna give you a call. Where is my cursor? Here we go.
I could try. So you want me to like start the rap?
Yeah. Yeah, I want you to pick somebody to talk to.
Who wants to be talked to?
And you guys have a conversation. We're gonna do a little role playing here.
Okay.
I'm also gonna stop the screen share.
Oh,
There we go.
So
Oh,
I'm a
James,
recluse and I live under a rock, by the way.
James, James, are
Okay.
you volunteering to be a part of this experiment?
I am, yes.
Okay, Scott and James.
All right. So um do you have any do you want to do anything when it comes to housing in the Bay Area? I'm with Raza Unida and we're looking to create more attention around this issue and other issues that are affecting us, like cost of living, the fact that there's so many empty places around here. What do you think about housing?
I think it'd be great if I had a, let me say this. I'm going to pretend to be somebody who needs to be convinced. That would be great if I had a magic wand. I could just fix everything, but I don't see a way out of this hole.
Well, I mean, obviously everything takes work, but if it takes planning, right, and organizing. You're not going to have an effect by yourself, and I'm not going to have an effect by myself. And Raza Anita is not going to have an effect by itself. It needs all our contributions to find the right path and to have an effect upon the issue, right? Where obviously there's lots of homeless and lots of people can't even make rent and are on the line to being homeless, and so we're interested in addressing the needs and issues of the working class in particular to be able to just to live, just to be able to eat, to
Scott, let
yeah.
me let me jump in here real
Yeah.
quick. So it was a good start, you guys. No, it was a good start. But just for the purposes of this, I mean, follow the outline, right? So like
Okay.
when we say state the problem, so
Mhm.
like you have somebody here in James who's saying, well, sure, I think this, but how are you really gonna fix this? So what you want to do in this conversation is you want to try to get this person back to the same, you want to get them on the same page as you, right?
Okay.
And so he's already acknowledged that there's an issue, right? He acknowledged that. He said he just doesn't know what to do with it. So then you would say, yeah, displacement of people and communities is an increasing problem, right? And that we do need, and then this is where I would say I agree with you. We need a solution to housing, right? And we need to be able to live places, that are nice, or, that are affordable. That's probably what I should have wrote there, that are affordable, right? And then just say to him, I get the sense that you agree with that. And then see what he says, but then try to follow the script as much as possible. All right.
Let me find the script here.
It's in the chat.
Okay. Okay.
This is why it's important to write it out first, you guys, and to give it a little bit of practice, because it really will. Remember, we're not just out talking to people, right? We're out having very intentional or organizing conversations, which means that each conversation has a specific goal. And that goal is to get this person to sign up to become a member. Well, in this particular case, that's the goal. So let's try it. Let's try it one more time. We got 3 minutes.
Try it again.
No pressure.
I'm not from this planet, so it's kind of hard for me to relate. All right. I mean, what do you think we could do to lower the cost of living and for rent and the cost of housing around here in the city?
Well, we could line up all the billionaires and take care of it that way. But we'll probably end up in jail. I have no
That is one
idea
way.
what you said, that you guys are doing this and you're building pathways. Well, help me understand some of the pathways.
Of course.
Well, some of the pathways are, I mean, or organizing itself, right? Like we need everyone to be to connect with this and be able to put their efforts towards it. I mean, Raza Unida means people, the people together, right? We need people to be able to find solutions within their communities, to join with others, um, and it's it goes more than just for the local, but it's also for the state and national level as well. We just got to connect with each other with like-minded people, and to find obviously that people that are concerned, rather than just not doing anything. This is part of building it. Building solutions is part of it.
Okay. Say, that sounds great. But here's my thing. My time's limited. I'm willing to attend a meeting when I can.
Mhm.
That sounds great. I've heard politicians say this stuff all the time, especially when they want my vote. It's usually the only time I see from them or hear from them. But I have a pretty good job, but man, I'm still just barely getting by.
Well, I mean, for me, do you want to put your energy towards the system that's always going to make it so you're barely getting by, or you want to put your energy towards building something where we can actually make a difference and help other people and build towards having it so there's things are more equitable.
I don't know how to, at this point, complain or come up with any more objections that aren't just ridiculous.
We got you.
Yes.
Close it,
But
Scott.
I think you had me before.
Oh, okay. So if you're interested,
he had you at what? No, go ahead, Scott. Close
La
it.
Raza Unida.
There you
yeah,
go.
Raza Unida, we're building, and we particularly building here locally, and we could, you can give me your contact information, and there's also like a flyer. I don't know how.
Yeah.
And I'll be in touch, and we have like find different ways to affect our community here
Scott,
in
you didn't
Oakland.
ask him to sign up to be a member.
I did. Oh, okay. I thought it was.
No, you did.
Okay.
I mean that, and I want to say this to you guys. Remember, ask them. There has to be an ask. There has to be a call to action, right? Just giving them a flyer is not an ask. It's not a call to action. We need to sign people up. And so you have to be very, you got to look them dead in their ojo, man. And you just got to be like, are you going to sign up or not? You know,
or not.
or not.
Do you want to
right?
sign up or do you hate poor people?
There you go. Yeah. Hey, let me tell you guys something. They have almost 65 members in Houston right now. And
Yeah.
you know how they've gotten them? They go out to parks, they set up a table, and they ask people if they want to join the party.
All right.
I mean,
Yeah, that's my plan. I need to do it.
well, but see,
For Oakland.
that's not just something that can happen in Houston. I mean,
Yeah.
I went to the DMV yesterday, and there was I got the Mexican lady that was there, and she sat down. And when I sat down, she said, "Do you want to register to vote?" And I said, I'm registered to vote. I said, but I'd like to register the party that I want to be in. And she said, okay, what's the name of the party? And I said, it's the Partido Nacional de la Raza Unida. And that lady jumped in her seat. She jumped in her seat. She said, there's one of those? And I said, yeah. And then we had a little conversation about the Partido. I gave her the website and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, there are 62 million people in this country that want to join this party. I am 150,000 million times percent, whatever, convinced of that, right? But if we don't ask them, they ain't going to join. You want somebody to go to the prom with you, you got to ask them because they can't read minds, right? They don't know. I mean, you got to ask. I mean, you guys all know that. You're all grown people. You got to say it with your mouth, you know? So, I mean, it's the same thing.
I asked somebody and they said that they didn't want to get into politics.
Oh, well, all right. On to the next one.
We live in a political world, sweetheart.
Yeah, well, there's that. And then on to the next one.
Here's one of the challenges I here recently had, and it was with my brother. It had nothing to do with him not wanting to be part of it. He's just the kind of guy who will research and study the daylights out of it before he does anything. And I happen to have one of the t-shirts on, Ernesto. And he goes, I looked it up and that was back in the 70s. I said, you're looking in the wrong spot. So I got the website and I sent it to him. Now, God bless him and I love him and all that other good stuff. But his concern is that the website on your phone, that if you click one of the radio buttons, that when it drops down, it says no information. You and I think, have talked about that, Todd, on my cell phone. So I went on to double check. And yeah, I would have to go back and tell you exactly which radio button it is. But when it drops down, it says there's like no information. And that is something that my brother very proudly states as many times as he can that he looks more Mexican than I do because of the color of his skin. And I keep telling him the color of your skin doesn't mean anything. And because that is true.
It's the color of your heart, brother.
Right. Because that is true. Some of the way he operates is still very European. And because of that one thing or those several things, at first he couldn't find it. But he said he was going to research it. And he's the kind of guy, especially because I'm his brother, that if he can find where I'm wrong, he'll tell me.
Yep.
But yeah, say when we send people to the website, we need to make sure whether it's on a laptop or a cell phone that everything is firing on all 8 cylinders.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, you guys, we are at time. This was recorded, and so I'm gonna put it up. I recorded last week too, and I uploaded that to my YouTube channel, and I'll make sure and send these out to all of you guys. This was a good discussion. I think that we're making some real headway here. And so yeah, I'll see you guys next Saturday. Do one thing this week. Ask 3 people to join the party. Make it a goal. Just 3 people, right? Do a little rap with them and ask them and tell them to sign up. All right. I'll see you guys later. You guys have fun.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.